Hello everyone. This video is going to cover organic shapes and shading. Shading rounded shapes to make it look more three-dimensional, and it kind of builds off of this exercise right here, the video called Basic Shading, where I discuss sectioning off and describing different techniques to show lights and darks, squares, circles, and a different technique with just pressure versus layering of lights and darks. Okay, so I'll turn the paper around here. I'm going to start off with a circle. And the purpose of this is to help you understand how to apply your shading techniques to organic shapes and forms, and later on to muscles, to bones, to biomorphic shapes, things from nature that curve, the plane curves around these shapes and forms. So this first circle I created here, it's about 3 inches. And what I'm going to do is I would like to draw 2 more circles within this larger circle. So here I want the highlight or the light falling on this, the lightest part to be right here. This is the brightest area on this circle. And yours can be down here anywhere, but this, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to create it right here. And then there's 2 circles now, the smaller circle and this larger circle. And in between these 2, I'm going to create 1 more circle. And they're just not placed anywhere. You see how it kind of progressively moves towards that smaller circle. You have the larger circle, it gets smaller, kind of in between the size of the small circle and the large circle. So large circle, medium circle, small circle. So if you can actually use this technique to shade this simple shape and form, it's a very good technique and tool to apply to make your shapes and forms more convincing using lights and darks, make it look more three-dimensional. Okay, so building off the previous video, what I'd like to do is start off by shading. I'm using a 4B pencil here, and I'm going to sweep across this circle. Just a light gray, very low pressure. There you go. So now I have a basic gray, and I have this light gray right up here in that first circle, and that's fine. I'm going to keep that gray. Now I'm going to shade around this, leave this alone, this gray right here. I want to go back in and I want to shade in another layer of the same pressure around this small circle. I'm going to leave that alone. So I'm essentially making the other 2 circles darker. Just, you can slow down again if you'd like. Make sure you sharpen your pencil. I use a X-Acto knife blade to kind of whittle down, gives me a good amount of graphite to work with. So I'm isolating this light area. You see now it looks lighter. There's contrast between this light area and this gray area. So I'm creating differences of lights and darks. Take your time, slow down, just create an even surface. There we go. I have light gray and a dark gray for these other 2 circles. Now, what do I want to do? I have light gray. I'm going to leave this second mid-sized circle alone. I'm just going to work in this area right here to define the largest circle, but just within the boundaries. When it meets the medium-sized circle, I'm going to leave that alone. I'm just going to use slowed, controlled shading. So what this is doing is creating the illusion that light is hitting this shape, and it's flowing around the surface of this curved plane, this cue ball, this sphere, this ball. And what it's doing is it's very basic, but I want you to be able to understand the basic of this principle. And that is we go from light to dark using 3 separate light values: light, medium, dark. So my goal right now is to define, make contrast, make sure this is dark enough so that there is a difference between each of those circles. Look at that, it's slowly appearing. That distinction, that separation between dark, medium, and light. And some people like to hold closer with their hand to the tip of the. I, I, I think what this creates is a little more pressure just because of the weight of the hand. And by holding it a little bit further away, it gives me a little bit more softness, a little bit more subtlety. And right now I'm working with big general areas. Look at that, look at that. I'm really happy with this circle. And this takes practice and patience, and this is another building block, a step towards understanding and developing your skills. And it's one of many different ways. There's so many people on YouTube and social media that can demonstrate this, and I just want to be able to speak to you directly and in just my perspective. Okay, I can fuss with this for much longer, but I want to stop right there and just discuss. You see that light gray right there? There's that medium gray, and there's shadow right here. And so there's a transition, a movement from your eye. You see it goes dark to light to lightest area right here. There you go. So that's one basic way to shade and create the illusion of this basic sphere. Very simple. Okay. And if you wanted to create, I'm going to create an ellipse underneath all of these. I'll just create a flat ellipse, oval-like shape underneath. And that gives it the idea that there's a shadow underneath this ball. And if you want to go a little bit further, I'm going to create a smaller, medium-sized shadow. And that's showing that as it goes underneath the ball or that shape, that the shadow gets darker because light is not able to see that area. Light is not able to get to that center area of that shadow. The center of that shadow is darker. And now I'll do one more, which is small ellipse, giving definition, and I'll move up closer to the tip of the pencil. Okay, there you go. So you can just stop the video, just pause it and look at it where it is right now. And then if you want to go a little more, how do you say, more smoother, okay, smoother transitions between light and dark, you keep adding more circles. I'm going to add 2 more circles to this. 3 more circles right there. So it gives me more steps along this ball here. So now I want to go back in and here's light gray, gray. I'm going to go a little bit darker on that third one, that one that I added. I'm doing a 45-degree angle, like shading technique. Some people, you can go back and curve your shading technique. Instead of just this way, you can bend your shading. By bending it, you're conforming to the organic shape. It makes it it's a little bit harder, but it can give you a little bit better results. So, so I'm echoing the curvature of this shape. So the area that's further away from this light source just gets darker and darker. And you get to determine how dark it becomes. But my goal right now is to show separation or distinction between shadow, middle value, and highlights. And even this direction, you can curve it and for just that outline, I'm just going to go back and be more specific, just a little bit more pressure. And this helps the viewer's eye, your eye, to really give it definition. And if you want to take just a Q-tip, kind of echo your brush strokes. I'm sorry, your pencil strokes, the lines you make with your pencil. Just don't overdo this because you might actually get rid of some of the nice transitions of light and dark. Okay, so that is with this shape. And now we're going to move to applying this technique to another shape. And this shape we'll try like, let's see here. Let's try like a rounded pebble-like shape form. Okay, there's my shape. And you can create as many different type organic shapes that you want, but I just chose this one because it's a little bit different, a little more angular than this shape. And I'm going to use the same technique. I want to go from large shape to smaller shape. So I have three shapes here, 1, 2, 3. And let's see, this one, my goal is to go from the edge, which is darker, and as it moves towards, I'll do little arrows for you, towards that highlight, I will use less pressure. So on the edge, a little bit more pressure, but then as I move towards that light area, I'm going to use less pressure. So the edge is darker and this is lighter. And it can be the reverse, depending on your lighting, situation. But this is just a basic demonstration so that you can apply it and understand it and apply it to the human face, to rocks, to bones, to basic shapes of animals, these variations. And we really haven't discussed like drawing shading within the environment, but that's for a later video. But once you understand how to apply values to your background of your shapes and forms, then it just looks better, more interesting, more dynamic. And this is a building block for your skills. And now this one, I'm going to show you, I'm going to use some little circular pencil movement. You see that? And that, for some people, actually helps them out. They're not really interested in this type of pencil movement, but just using these kind of spiraling circles. So as I move towards that highlight, I'm going to use less pressure. So I want transition. And you just need patience. When you rush your drawings, you're just trying to like meet a deadline. You're like, God, let me just whip this out in like 30 minutes or whatever. Like sometimes the results are really not that great. And slow down, put some time into your work. If you need to do 10 minutes here, 10 minutes later, do that. But by putting in like time and effort, a couple hours, you'll definitely see results, and it's more satisfying because it's you learn through that patience and practice and just spending time with the skill that you're trying to attain, these building blocks. And with these videos, I don't want to just rush through it. I want to just slow down and give you some pointers here and there. And some of these pointers will work for you, and some of them, you've been there, you've done that, you know about it already. Move on. I'm contouring. By making the outside darker, I'm making this center area, the contrast of light to dark, bolder. And typically that attracts attention. Contrast of light and dark. And later on, contrast of color. But right now we're working with light and dark contrast. One of the properties of color. So are you seeing the separation between dark, medium gray, and I'll shade in that center area just a little bit, just a tiny bit. All these circles. So there's that movement of light towards the highlight. Okay, let's stop there and take a look at that. And dang, I think this is such a cool exercise because you can apply this to different shapes. Look at that. Look at all these strange shapes. And what if I tell you that later on when you start doing human anatomy, you notice these shapes. These combinations of shapes throughout. Yeah, so practice with different organic shapes and build up your confidence so it's not overwhelming to do some of those more complex shapes. And these can be building blocks to do those, complete those complex shapes. Okay, I'm going to stop this video right there. And so did you see we started off very simply, that discussion. We made it more complex. We work with a different technique this time with concentric shapes moving towards shadow and highlight to create more of a three-dimensional form.